We now turn our attention to boxing once again, the heavyweight division, for the huge fight coming up 31st of March 2018. Anthony Oluwafemi Olaseni Joshua versus Joseph Dennis Parker. Will be held at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. Titles on the line will be Anthony Joshua's IBF World Heavyweight title, International Boxing Organisation World Heavyweight title, WBA Super World Heavyweight title, and a WBO World Heavyweight title. So it's a huge fight. There's a lot at stake. There's been an awful lot of negotiations. Team Parker were pushing for, I think it was 50-50 at one stage on the split, purse-wise. Then it became 60-40, and I think the common consensus is they've agreed for somewhere around 65-35. So both men are going to be paid well, and there's a lot at stake. There couldn't be more at stake. If we look at the betting, we've got Anthony Joshua as a huge favourite at 1-7. We've got Joseph Parker at 6-1. And if we look at the draw, which is a waste of time because it's not going to happen, it's 40-1 is available in the market. But so as soon as I view those prices, I think Joshua's the rightful favourite, obviously. But well, maybe not so obviously. That's what I'm going to come on to later. I just think the price is a bit short on Joshua. And we're going to have a discussion about the pros and cons of each fighter and, discuss those prices and whether they're right and, which ones we should look at for betting purposes. If we start with Joseph Parker, the pros on his side, he's got youth, so is Anthony Joshua though. He's in good shape, so is Anthony Joshua. He's unbeaten, so is Anthony Joshua. They're both tall men. Parker 6'4", Joshua 6'6". Although having a look at the reach statistics, the stats give Anthony Joshua a 6-inch reach advantage. I don't know how that plays out in actuality in terms of a fight, but those figures would suggest that Joshua, could work the jab, could keep Parker at range, and could be able to land more shots without receiving anything back in return. But, obviously you need to employ some boxing skill as well to capitalise on that reach. I think their skill level is actually similar. I don't think either of them are amazingly skillful. You'd probably say someone like Luis Ortiz is probably more skillful than these two. But in the heavyweight division, brute power, brute force, and fitness and endurance, counts for a lot. If we look at the best fighters in the division, Wilder, Joshua, Parker, these guys, they're relying a lot on athletic ability and raw strength. It's not so much about skill. Obviously skill matters, but it seems that in the heavyweight division, brute power and force counts for a lot. So continuing Parker's strengths, he has reasonable hand speed for a heavyweight. I don't think he has too many miles on the clock. He has gone the distance in some of his fights, but if you look at his record, it's 24-0-0, 18 KOs out of those 24 wins. I don't know if he's been involved in too many wars. He's gone the distance with Hughie Fury, but Hughie Fury was pretty evasive that night, tried to kind of nick the title, tried to be clever, tried to use boxing skill, but might have been a bit too clever because I don't think he landed enough meaningful shots and showed enough intent to win the fight, and that was proven in the end as Joseph Parker got the MD, got the decision. If we look through his record, he's fought Andy Ruiz Jr., it's probably the most difficult opponent he's faced to date. Tied with Hughie Fury. Hughie Fury was obviously a huge challenge, an unbeaten fighter at the time. He's beaten Alexander Dimitrenko. He's also got through Takam. He beat Takam, unanimous decision in 2016, May 2016. So he beat Takam before Joshua did. You can say that Joshua was slightly more emphatic, stopping Takam in the 10th, I think it was. But many people thought that fight could have gone on. It was thought that the fight was stopped a little bit prematurely. And I probably agree with that. Takam's quite a game fighter. So I don't think there's much to say between how they both dispatched Takam. I think they both did a similar sort of job. Joseph Parker, the cons we have to say is that other than sort of Ruiz Jr., Hughie Fury and Dimitrenko and Takam, well, that's 4 people. I was about to say other than them, he hasn't fought on anyone, hasn't faced any decent tests, but he certainly hasn't faced anyone of the nature of Klitschko. Anthony Joshua's got through Klitschko in one of the greatest fighters of all time, taking on, the man at the time. Some might say Hughie Fury was the man at the time. Tyson Fury was the man at the time, having beaten Klitschko. But Klitschko's record speaks for itself. He's been around forever, and it's a toss-up between which one you go for. Whether you go with the belts at the time, you say Tyson Fury. If you go with the record and durability and the number of people he's beaten and the type of career, the length of career he's had, you've got to go with Klitschko. So Joshua's had a career-defining fight. I don't think Parker has. Some might argue the fight against Andy Ruiz Jr. was career-defining because he won the title. That's fair enough. That's an argument to be had. But I don't think Andy Ruiz Jr. can be described as a mega fight. And whereas Joshua's been in a mega fight and he's delivered, he's bitten down, he's hit the canvas, and he's got up again, and he's managed to defeat Vladimir Klitschko. You can't do much better than that in the sport. So we'll look at Anthony Joshua's pros. He's obviously got that reach advantage. He's got that confidence from the Klitschko victory. I don't think there's many bigger boosts than defeating someone like Klitschko. He's got the Olympic pedigree, strong, young, powerful. He's already shown his strength by taking out Takam. He's taken out Brazil. Brazil not hugely skillful but very durable. Joshua laid a heavy beating on him, got him out of there in the middle rounds. He's taken out Dillian Whyte in the middle rounds. We know how durable Dillian Whyte is. We know how game he is. He's managed to get past him. Huge power. I think the power advantage is for Joshua in this fight. Parker, he can land big shots. He certainly disposed of the weaker fighters on his record quite easily with his power. Fighting a lot of fights in New Zealand. But power, we're going to go with Joshua, that hammer of a right hand, which has taken out so many victims. I mean, he's got 20 wins, no draws, no losses, 20 KOs, so he clearly has power there. If we look at the cons for Joshua, we'd have to say he gets hit. Anthony Joshua does get hit. He takes shots. He's got a good chin. I think the pair of them have got a good chin, so has Parker. But he does get hit, so there's always that opportunity there. With heavyweight boxing, you always have to look at, particularly when betting the underdog, is the concept of the puncher's chance. And if there's a fighter who gets hit, like Joshua does, there's always a chance. He could get dropped. He got dropped against Klitschko. There's a possibility Parker, if he lands his best on Joshua, he's going to land on him at some point. He could go down, and that could be curtains. So you've got to look at that possibility as well. Even though AJ is the worthy favourite, you've got to look. There is a puncher's chance for Parker, and I think he has slightly more than a puncher's chance. I mean, I'd be insulting Joseph Parker if I didn't give him his fair credit. He is unbeaten. He has shown durability. He has shown good hand speed. He's shown tremendous fitness. He can bang. So there's no reason to say that he can't knock Anthony Joshua out. If it goes to points, which I don't think. I think there'll be a stoppage, but if it was to go to points, it could go either way. You can't really give the advantage to either guy. They're both very durable. You could say Joshua with the slightly better power could inflict more damage on Parker throughout the fight, and so you could have him as a favourite if it goes to points. But I think Parker's durability and his engine is very strong. So in terms of the points side, I think it's a coin toss if it went to points. I'm going to say another thing about Joshua. I think it probably applies to Parker as well. I don't want to sound insulting, but I wouldn't say their skill set is going to be the factor that wins the fight. I think it's just going to come down to fitness, and it's going to come down to power and who lands consistently, who lands the most. If either of them lands on the chin, there's a possibility they'll go down. I think that's slightly more the case with Joshua. But as I said before, I think Parker's got a good chance. So in conclusion, we're going to say AJ has the advantage and is a worthy favourite. He should win. But when we look at the odds, it might sound weird to some people listening to this, but there's only one bet for me, and it's Parker. You bet on 1-7, you're going to have to put an awful lot of money down to, pick up anything decent, pick up a decent return. I think Parker out of 6-1 is tremendous value. For me, Joshua should be maybe 1-5, maybe 1-4, and then Parker somewhere between 4-1 and 6-1. So, in terms of the value, it's Parker. Often in this sort of scenario, where I often have the underdog as a better value, or I have recently in competitive fights where other fighter could win rather than a mismatch. And sometimes, as I have done recently, I've just gone for the winner's market. I haven't bothered too much about the odds. Certainly, I've gone for Wilder against Ortiz. The value there is Ortiz at just over 2-1, but I've still gone with Wilder. In this case, I'm going to do something different. 1-7 is too short on Joshua to get any interest. If it was 1-4, you'd say it might be worth laying some juice on that, laying a good amount of units and taking a profit. I don't think 1-7 presents enough of an attraction for us. I'm going to look at Parker in this one. I wouldn't go mad with your stake, but I think it's worth a go. There's the puncher's chance concept. There's the fact that he's in good shape, not too many miles on the clock. Same for Joshua, I know that. But I just think at these prices, you've got to look at that 6-1 and take it seriously. Laying a whole load of money on Joshua at 1-7, that's fine. But you might as well watch and let him win and not bet at all, because you're not going to make... The risk isn't worth it. 1-7, if it was 1-4, we could take it a lot more seriously. But the way the odds have been positioned by the bookmakers, a few units on Parker at 6-1 and enjoy the fight is probably the way to go. I wouldn't go mad with the stake. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to lay a lot of juice on Joshua at 1-7. I say good luck to them and enjoy your winnings. If he wins, you deserve it, and he's likely to win. But just on the balance of probabilities and the odds that are given, my betting recommendation is to put a reasonable stake on Parker and hope that he lands someone, Joshua, who can be hit, isn't the greatest, most skillful boxer in the world, isn't the greatest defensive boxer in the world. Neither is Parker, once again. But there's just enough chance that Parker may land something on Joshua and end the fight. This is heavyweight. So, few units on Parker. Enjoy the fight. Please give your comments in terms of the value in the betting market, in terms of who you think will win and why. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time.